أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum and thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying tuned to PTV World. You're watching a special transmission. I happen to be Shahzad Khan, and with me I'm really lucky that I've been joined by my wonderful colleague who happens to be Miss Eesha Rehan. Hello Eesha, Assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, Shahzad. I am feeling absolutely great, and I feel like on behalf of all the Pakistanis and everyone, we can say that we feel very prideful and very proud that our Pakistan armed forces have given a befitting response to India and have brought them on their knees towards a ceasefire. And this was only possible due to the DGISPR's claims that we are going to respond to India at the time and place of our own choosing after they tried to spread aggression in Pakistan. And when he said that when Pakistan will respond, not only the Indian media and the government will know, but the whole world's media will know, that is exactly what has happened.
Exactly. Thank you so much, for kind of giving us a quick wrap up as well as of what has actually happened in the past few days as well. But ladies and gentlemen, as a Pakistani, as an individual, who was brought up and raised within, Pakistan, alhamdulillah, I think that the rest of the world really needs to know that when it's going to come towards the territorial integrity or sovereignty of our country, we are never going to leave any stone unturned. I think that's one thing. But not just that. I think sanity has prevailed. Alhamdulillah, we are a peaceful nation, and that's exactly what we want. It's peace within our own country, peace within the region, and we want peace all across the world. But while we are at these crossroads, I think there are a few important aspects that we would need to discuss. So I think first things first, I would want people to kind of, come up with, what are the latest updates, and then we'll continue with our transmission, because the conduct of Pakistan Armed Forces Operation Binyan Marsoos on 10th May 2025 as part of the military conflict, Marka-e-Haq, was in response to India's military's dastardly attacks that began on the night of 6th and 7th May 2025, resulting in the loss of innocent civilian lives, including women, children, and the elderly. And not just that, I think on the other hand, what we really need to kind of appreciate is how the Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif Saab, has announced that Marka-e-Haq Day will be observed annually on May 10th in honor of the great success of Operation Binyan Marsoos. And in a statement, the Prime Minister also announced some major decisions for helping the victims of Indian attack. He said Marka-e-Haq Day will be celebrated across the country every year with fervor and a spirit of national unity. The Prime Minister said the professional capabilities of our brave armed forces have made us proud. He declared Friday, May 16, 2025 as a day of gratitude to express thanks to Allah and to honor the Pakistan Armed Forces for their remarkable success on the defense front. He further said on this Friday, of special prayers will be offered, prostrations of thanks will be made to Allah, and prayers will be held for the progress of the country and the nation. Alhamdulillah. The major decisions announced by the Prime Minister for the victims of Indian attacks and their properties, the announcement of a martyrs package for those martyred during the Marka-e-Haq, which I do believe is actually very considerate of the Honorable Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif Saab. The federal government will reconstruct homes and mosques destroyed in the Indian attacks, says the Prime Minister himself. The Prime Minister further, within that said the responsibility for the care of martyrs' children lies with the government, and we will fulfill this duty. He said that the federal government will bear all medical expenses for the injured. He even added that those who serve the nation in any capacity in defense of Pakistan's honor and dignity will be recognized at the national level and awarded with honors. And Eesha, I do believe that, that me and you and our entire team of World This Morning have been at the forefront of it. So
exactly, I think we were talking about how Sir Shahzad was the one fighting the war from the media side.
Well, what I'm trying to reiterate over here is that, if the Honorable Prime Minister is listening, I think we truly deserve the honors too as well. But thank you so much, sir, for the recognition of all of those people who've contributed. Not just that, I think now let's build up on this, because imagine that the first round of talks between the DGMOs of the military operations via hotline has taken place. What were the agendas which were discussed? If we are to speak about the ceasefire, is it really a ceasefire? Or are we still seeing that the talks really need to take place, in days to come, and we will see what the outcomes of the talks will be? As of now, according to my information, I think that there are three agendas, which are under conversation. And number one is Kashmir, number two is terrorism, and number three is the syntax agreement as well. And we do know how the Indus Water Treaty stands in a base. I mean, we are still not yet whether what's happening with the Indus Water Treaty, but how I think for the DGMOs to kind of come across each other in these conversations, because this exchange actually marks rare instance of direct military communication amid heightened tensions as well. So, to kind of get started with our conversation, I would like to introduce our worthy guest who happens to be a senior analyst. He is the Rear Admiral retired FAISAL Ali Shah Sahab. Hello sir, Assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Wa alaikum assalam, Shahzad and Eesha. Good to see you both, and thank you very much for having me in your program.
Thank you so much. And on the phone, we have been joined by Mr. IRFAN, who happens to be a senior journalist. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Wa alaikum assalam, Shahzad. Thank you very well.
Sir, thank you so much. So, sir, obviously, first things first, I'm actually going to move on towards Rear Admiral retired FAISAL Ali Shah Sahab, sir. First of all, how do you see things in your context? And then I will move on with further questioning. Sir, please go ahead.
Okay, Shahzad and Eesha, this is, I think, a very important moment in our history because for last many decades, I think this is the position of strength that we have never enjoyed against India. And this position of strength has been achieved not only by our armed forces, but I would say by whole nation. And that is called whole of nation approach, starting from political level, diplomatic level, military, society, and then media also. So at all levels, we defeated Indians, and they were not at par at all. And this has been recognized and registered by the whole world. So while we have achieved this victory and we are at a very strong crossroads in our history, perhaps after many decades, for so many years we have been listening that Pakistan is at a weak crossroad or as a critical crossroad, but I think this time we are at a very strong crossroad and we must consolidate our gains now. I think Pakistan has very rightly conveyed three red lines. One, that India should not be allowed to meddle in our internal affairs, and it may be it through terrorism or be it through any other means. The other thing, that whatever pacts we agree to, those should be respected at all levels and by all means. And third, that this drama of fake encounters and then blaming Pakistan every now and then should not be repeated again. So I think these three red lines should be adhered to by Pakistan in the talks ahead. Right now, we are going through the ceasefire phase, and DGMOs have had first talks. So during first talks, usually intentions to continue with the ceasefire are exchanged. And when both agree on ceasefire, then method of de-escalation is discussed. And then these messages are passed on to respective forces. But still, we need to keep our guard on. We need to have our watchful eyes on every front, because there can be any misadventure again from Indian side. If you have gone through the speech that PM Modi has made to his nation after this all encounter, he still persists what was their point of view right from the beginning. So, but I believe that this is...
And FAISAL, I'm going to come back to this as well. I'm going to just move on towards IRFAN GHAURI Sahab, because what you have said actually kind of sets the tone right for our conversation. IRFAN GHAURI Sahab, we do know how on the 22nd of the previous month there was a Pahalgam false flag operation. Within 5 minutes, we did see how India started blaming Pakistan. We have seen the raw document leaked on Telegram as well, saying that that we will be blaming Pakistan and how the media needs to be operationalized. So this level of trust that we are going to see in days to come is something which we really cannot be sure about. And that's one thing where FAISAL Sahab has very rightly or rightfully pointed out that what we need to do is that we need to keep our guard up. I mean, how do you see the ceasefire to come into play? Because it's the Indian External Affairs Minister S.J. Shankar and the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and then the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Deputy Prime Minister Sajeel confirming that it's a full and immediate ceasefire. How trustworthy do you think that we can Do you think that we can rely on our neighbor, India, who was, or even Pakistan, which were actually about to go on a full-scale nuclear war?
Thank you very much. I think very eloquently, Rehan Saab has described the situation, and I think we should not be putting our guard down. We have seen yesterday's speech from Indian Prime Minister, where he has been saying that, this, they have just halted the operation. From the beginning, what we have seen was that, speech was towards his political motives, and from the beginning of this incident, where Kalkama incident, where the next day, the things were very clear that it was not only false flag operation, but it had the greater motives of the Indian ruling party, BJP. They immediately, they became, they didn't wait for any investigation. Rather, they played the victim card. They became the judges, prosecutors, and executors at the same time. But Alhamdulillah, we have faced their aggression, and not only we have faced it, rather we have shattered their myth of dominance in the South Asian region, which I think is a big achievement, not only in military terms, but also on diplomatic. And that conflict during these days, what we have seen was that not only in the military domain, but also in all domains of the war, and in on diplomatic fronts, and also even on the information front. We have been seeing that in Indian media, where there is always a hatred. They have been, fomenting the hatred against Pakistan for so many years. And the way they covered this, and the way the whole world is laughing on them. And this is something I think we should now capitalize on, and we should carry on with the same spirit that we have shown during the last week.
Exactly. And sir, just to add to this, my colleague over here, Eesha Rehan, would actually want to pose a question towards you as well. So I'm going to move on towards Eesha. So Eesha, please go ahead.
All right, I want to talk about how it's very ironic that Modi's BJP party tried to use the Pahalgam incident to falsely accuse Pakistan. However, they faced an embarrassing defeat. It ended up blowing up in their faces. Their military faced embarrassment, and their economy took a direct hit by facing a market loss of $83 billion. So how do you think this is going to define the next upcoming Modi's political strategy and his prominence in the political game now?
I think it's, India is exposed in many ways. We have been seeing the reports that the foreign direct investments in India, that is the people investors, they are shying away. Similarly, even I was listening to a World Bank expert who is by origin. He was also describing that India from a lower income country to middle becoming a easier. But going towards a higher income country, that would be very difficult for them because of the structural weaknesses that India that have been exposed during this conflict, and even during the past so many years since the BJP government, they came to power and they polarized the society. And the way the Indian society is acting now, you can just imagine that. I think yesterday or day before yesterday, there was a bakery in Hyderabad named Karachi Bakery. The activists of BJP or the RSS, they vandalized that bakery because its name was Karachi Bakery. If you become so fundamental that even you cannot tolerate a word, just a word, then how can you see yourself economically developing, where you have to open yourself, you have to be open to all investments on this and all these things. So it seems that the things which the Indians have been portraying, that it's shining India, and it's going to become a major power and all those, they are shattered now.
Exactly. And sir, I'm just going to very quickly move on towards Faisal Saab over here as well. Now, Faisal Saab, I'm going to share this news article with you where the US President Donald Trump has said that he has prevented a disastrous nuclear war in South Asia between Pakistan and India. During his interaction with the press at White House, Donald Trump said the US intervention prevented a bad nuclear war between the two countries. Trump's comments signal a rare moment of US diplomatic mediation between the two South Asian nuclear powers and suggest a broader American strategy that ties peace to economic engagement. Now, sir, in addition to this, all of this came after, or the ceasefire came after missile strikes, drone incursions and retaliatory operations across border. And it is being said rightfully that it was India which actually went on to kind of connect with Mr. Rubio as well. How do you see, for United States to play an intermediate role in between Pakistan and India? Whereas, at the very first stage or at the very beginning of it, Pakistan was like, hey, you know what? We are open for a neutral probe and we would welcome you to come and sit on the table and let's have a conversation. How do you see, this ball game changing because India first start listening to Pakistan, the United States come into place and make sure that, that he's going to play the role of an intermediary and, the peace needs to prevail. Because it's been said that it was India which actually ran towards United States of America to and that to beggingly to seek for ceasefire or immediate ceasefire.
I think very pertinent question. First of all, I think it's a matter of commonplace that there is a great danger of nuclear war between India and Pakistan because they are nuclear neighbors. And when you are nuclear neighbors, there is, possibility of any false decision making because you don't have reaction time between each other. So that's a very dangerous situation as far as nuclear warfare is concerned. So that's why whole world is on toes when there is some skirmish between India and Pakistan. And that's how I think whole world or majority of the countries were alluding to the diplomatic efforts between India and Pakistan. But talking specifically about US, I would like to say that the two countries other than India and Pakistan who were most interested and most observing this conflict between India and Pakistan were US and China because they have a rivalry going on, major powers rivalry, and Indian and Pacific Oceans are the two domains where this rivalry is primarily going on. So US has dished out a strategy, Indo-Pacific strategy, which is a sea-based strategy for India and Indian and Pacific Oceans. And in that strategy, he has actually formed small groups of like-minded nations to be made so strengthened and powerful so that they could stand against China. And India has a very key role in that whole construct. India has been epitomized by the US and by India itself also as the net security provider in Indian Ocean. So that is a stature that India wants to enjoy. And that is a stature that India claims to be. So this time India wanted to teach a lesson to Pakistan so that it could reinstate that and reinforce that stature and that claim. Now, when US saw that Indians were not up to Pakistani attacks and there was great damage was going on, especially you see Rafales were down, and S-400, a very big success for Pakistan, that was destroyed. Then air bases were knocked out. Then Indian Navy, which is supposed to be in the lead in Indo-Pacific strategy, whole construct of that, because I told you that Indo-Pacific strategy is a sea-based strategy. Indian Navy could not move an inch forward against Pakistan or Pakistan Navy. So when US saw this, it rescued India because it did not want India to be decimated to an extent where it could not stand again and be of any use to the US, because US does not have any other option against China in this region. So that was a rescue by US for India. And India needed this ceasefire badly because they need to reconstruct, they need to reorganize, they need to recoup, they need to replenish, and they need to regain their confidence.
And how do you think, sir, that it's going to downplay on India now as well? I think we need to bring this or probably make this a part of our conversation, how United States actually had to come to India's rescue and, how you are sharing with us that, that India actually wants to be that mighty power within this region. And we do know for a fact that, how China actually stands tall, and it's more of a friendship of China and Pakistan, like how they say it or how we say it. It's more like an ironclad partnership. How do you think that, that this recent insensible move on India will downplay on them where how they wanted to dominate the region?
I think India had there were some important factors before the start of this all. One important factor that hurt the Indian credibility was its involvement in overseas terrorism that were found by Canada, US, and Australia explicitly. And they conveyed all these things with proofs to Indian government that their government-backed agents were involved in terrorist activities in these countries. So that was one stigma India was already carrying, and that was a matter of frustration, because if you want to become a net security provider or you want to become big brother of the region, you should have a clean sheet. So they wanted to wash away with that stigma, and that was one factor that had hurt their credibility also, and that was one factor that they wanted to get rid of through this expedition. Then second thing is that this Pahalgam incident, that was one old script that they repeated. They first did it in 2016, then in 2019, then again in 2025. So people around the world, also inside India, they understood that it is same old rant going to go on. And you see, in this whole saga, what India does, it becomes the judiciary itself, it becomes the complainant itself, it becomes the advocate itself, and it announces the decision itself without any evidence, without any interrogation, any investigation. Although fingers were pointed towards India from inside also, and some countries also demanded evidence, tangible evidence against Pakistan, but they did not provide it because they were in some what would you call in some fog that whatever they were saying would be absorbed by the international community and the domestic audience, as it was during 2019 and 2016. But this time, the things were different. The environment was different because India already had a stigma of overseas terrorism, and because this was repeated for the third time, absolutely the same script. So people, both domestic audience and international audience, did not believe India fully. And that's how India carried out this campaign with not full preparations. Another thing that I observed on the Indian side was that there was an intelligence failure on part of Indian military and political establishment. Whenever you are going to go for such a big campaign against any other country, you are given an intelligence assessment about your adversary on his strengths and weaknesses. And I think Indian intelligence agencies could not find those strengths and weaknesses about Pakistan. So
that's
a wrong
fine,
picture was
and I'm going to
painted.
come back to this. But sir, where you have actually mentioned that how United States of America is actually backing India, I think at the diplomatic front, it opens a lot of questions for Pakistan to think in the right way as well. And we cannot be in abeyance of how United States might have behaved at the diplomatic front. I mean, it's great that that an immediate ceasefire has been brought into place as well. Thanks to the United States Secretary of State as well, or President Trump. But I'm going to move on to Mr. Irfan Ghauri Saab as well. Irfan Saab, now what we have seen in the previous days is that that for our Defense Minister Khwaja Asif has repeatedly mentioned that that for the longest period of time we have done dirty laundry for the United States of America, and in a condition where probably we needed such support from United States of America, we really cannot kind of gauge the kind of support that we got. I mean, certainly it was China standing at the back, it was Turkey, I mean, it was all of those other countries who actually came to play their role, as allies of Pakistan. But at Fansab, how do you think that in days to come that the diplomatic front really needs to be kind of sorted in a way where we do know for a fact that, hey, you know what, if Pakistan's in trouble, these countries are our allies and we should actually rely on these countries rather than focusing on countries where now they're trying to make India, a big brother within the region.
Yeah, but Faisal, I think first of all we should be clear that we are thankful to the countries that have supported us, but it's always you have to be self-reliant as much as possible. And in Indian case, what we have seen was that initially, even on the diplomatic front, if you can recall the tweet of J.D. Vance, where there it seems they had tilt towards India. Yes, everybody condemns terrorism. That that we also condemn it. But in a statement, he said that India. I mean, I'm not quoting the exact words, but it was like so that to the extent of involvement of Pakistan, I mean, the Indians can punish them. Them to that extent. So this was alarming for us. But once this operation started, but they gave it a funny name to that operation anyhow. But the way we retaliated, the way we defended ourselves, so it made clear to the we are not a soft target. So they also had the best, the Americans and the Quad and all those countries they had on the Indians.
Fansab, I'm really sorry. I'm going to come back to you as well because Faisal Saab has only got 2 minutes, so I'm going to allow him to complete where he said that there was a security intelligence lapse as well. Faisal bhai, please complete so that we can bid you farewell. Thank you so much for being with us. And if Fansab, I'll come back to you and you can continue with your point, please.
Thank you very much, Shahzad. Okay, I was saying that there was intelligence failure because they could not put up a complete or authentic picture to the political and military leadership about Pakistan. And second, I found there was a gap between political leadership and the military leadership because the political leadership was not fully aware of the capabilities of their own armed forces. If you see on Pakistani side, when our political and military leadership said that if India ventures into an adventure or if it carries out any attack against Pakistan, we will respond with full force, and not only with full force, but a step ahead, a notch above. And that's what we did because our political leadership was fully aware of the capabilities of their armed forces. So that was one difference that I found between the two countries. And what has...
Exactly. Sir, I think thank you so much, Faisal Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. Such was the time that we had with Faisal Saab, obviously. So I'm going to move back to Irfan Saab over here. So Irfan Saab, please, make your point as well and then, direct the conversation towards how Faisal Saab said that it was a lapse of the Indian intelligence agencies as well, where how they couldn't really figure out what Pakistan did with them.
I think when it comes to the failure of their intelligence, that is very much evident even from the start of this, this whole conflict. When the Pahalgam incident takes place, they didn't have, we know that the level of militarization they have done in Kashmir, and that is not new, that they have been there for last more than 3 decades with such a huge force. And having this force on the ground, and you couldn't have any intelligence, number one. And then, ironically, they have alleged that they have got the alleged link in Pakistan, but they couldn't find those people till now that staged that attack inside, India and, inside Kashmir, rather, inside in Pahalgam. So, this was all the operation, the whole saga, that was a staged thing. And it reinstates our position that it was all a false flag operation. And this the whole Operation Sindoor, that ultimately it turned out to be a strategic blunder for Modi, which I think would have the political ramifications in India as well.
Exactly.
And we want to talk about how Operation Bunyan Marsoos is also hailed as a textbook example all around the world for being a very brilliant operation conducted by the Pakistan military. I think it needs to be studied how a country like Pakistan, with only a defense budget of $10,000 million, was able to stand up to India, a country with a much larger and bigger defense budget, and how we were able to tackle this aggression by India.
Yes, I think this is very much clear now that India having 10 times more budget and a very big economy, much larger than us. But when it came to the resolve of the Pakistani nation, their whole I would say that the narrative that they have been building is shattered, and in all domains of battlefield. We have dominated them, and we have proved that Pakistan is, this one of the outcomes that we have from this conflict was that Pakistan has proved that it has the capacity of next generation warfield and battlefield, and also that we can demonstrate the multi-domain, integrated soft and offensive capabilities at the same time, and we have proved it in the battlefield, which is, I think, a big success militarily. But at the same time, on the diplomatic level, the Kashmir issue, it has been re-internationalized, and that is, I think, a very big success for us, and we should be carrying on with this, and we should be emphasizing the world powers that this is the root cause. This is where the whole, we have fought so many wars with India. India has been, we and India have been in conflict. So that is the core reason, and the world community should understand now, unless this issue is amicably resolved, this conflict will continue. Even if it is a ceasefire now, in next few years, we don't know. We are again to the same situation.
Exactly, and sir, which is why, Allama Iqbal sahab actually said that kafir hai to shamsher pe karta hai bharosa, momin hai to betek bhi ladta hai sipahi, and I think that's where Pakistan actually set an example. But sir, very quickly, I think I would want to praise the role that our Prime Minister, our political leadership and our military leadership has actually played a pivotal role. Now imagine that I would want to share with how our Army Chief General Syed Asim Munir has visited Combined Military Hospital Rawalpindi to inquire after the well-being of the soldiers and innocent civilians wounded during the Marka-e-Haq Operation Bunyan Marsoos. The Chief of Army Staff sir lauded the exceptional bravery and steadfast devotion duty of the injured soldiers. He reaffirmed the unwavering support. How do you see the political leadership and the military leadership being on the same page, making sure that, when it comes towards the territorial integrity of a nation or a country or the sovereignty of the country, that we are steadfast and we will continue to give a befitting response if needed?
I think it's not only the political and military leadership, but Pakistani nation as a whole. You and me, we were here in the twin cities and across Pakistan. What we were seeing was that Pakistanis were, none of the Pakistanis, they were scared. And when, the Indians, they tried to attack our air bases, you feel that the people of Pakistan, the youth, they were on the streets. They were there to they were chanting slogans for, the support of Pakistani armed forces. This shows a national resolve, and it was not only, on the military leadership, political leadership, but also our nation, common Pakistanis, on social media and, the media front, we have, the way we, fought this information war, even in media front, the conventional media front. The way Indians portrayed and exposed themselves, that is something, that is being discussed all over the world now that India claiming to be democracy, where they claim that they have the freedom of speech and everything. But the way they mean, not only during the campaign, but even till yesterday, the mainstream media people, I mean, unverified, they have been using unverified information and then, putting blames on Pakistan. This is because of the Modi government, their narrative that they have been building over the years, and that has resulted in India that many of their supporters, any field you would see in media or even in politics and in other domains, you do not expect anything stand from them.
Exactly. And sir, while we're at this front and while we have mentioned that how we really need to thank Pakistani nation, may it be the military leadership, political leadership, and Pakistan at large or Pakistanis at large, there's one question which comes from a very personal point of view, sir. That is how, we're very thankful to, Alhamdulillah, first of all, Allah Almighty, then certainly, our ironclad brother China, then maybe Malaysia, maybe Turkey, maybe Iran, for all of those countries who played their role. How do you see the Gulf countries in this crucial time have played a pivotal role for Pakistan? Do you think that they have played a pivotal role, or do you think that, probably, we shouldn't be really talking too much about them?
I think on the diplomatic front, they were in touch with us. You mentioned about Iran, the Iranians, their foreign minister, Saudi foreign minister, he came here and they visited India as well. They were trying to de-escalate the situation. And then we also have to keep in mind that every country has their own. And when we talk about put to them for their sport, there is no doubt about that. But our focus should be self-reliant, and our focus should be that we, on all domains, we should be, in a position that everybody has to be on our side when it comes to.
All right, sir, I think thank you so much for these wonderful remarks as well. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much, for letting our audiences know as to how Pakistan really needs to be self-reliant. And Alhamdulillah, Pakistan has been self-reliant as well. We need to thank China as much as we should as well. Thank you so much, Irfan Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, we might be heading out towards a short break, but once we come back after the bulletin break, certainly I need to speak about, the three agendas which have been discussed in between, the first round of talks between the DGMOs of the military from across the borders as well, maybe Pakistan military or the Indian military via the hotline. So we will be discussing more on that as well. Do not go anywhere. For everybody who's out there, very quickly towards the end, certainly, I would want to give this message in Urdu if my team allows as well, and that is for all of those Pakistanis who are out there. उन्होंने अपने मिशन का नाम सिंदूर रखा और पाकिस्तान आर्मी और पाकिस्तान की जितनी भी आर्म्ड फोर्सेज हैं उन्होंने ठीक तरीके से उनकी मांगों में सिंदूर भर दिया। ये बहुत अच्छी बात है। आने वाले वक्त में हम कभी भी ये नहीं सोच सकते कि शायद इंडिया जो है वो हमारा पुरसकून हमसाया होगा, और शायद पाकिस्तान को, जैसे अभी इरफान साहब ने कहा, कि हमें हमेशा ही तैयार रहना होगा, और हमेशा ही हमने देखा that that the military might that our military armed forces have shown, or the befitting response that they have gone is great. But for us as Pakistanis, हम हमेशा अमन पसंद कौम हैं। हम जितने भी लोग जो पाकिस्तान में आते हैं, बेशक बाहर किसी भी मुल्क से आते हो, उन्होंने हमेशा अगर ये कहा कि हम सबसे ज्यादा हॉस्पिटेबल नेशन है, पाकिस्तान में हम कहीं पे भी जाते हैं लोग हमारा बहुत ख्याल रखते हैं, और ऐसा ही है। और हम अपने हमसायों का भी इसी तरह ख्याल रखना चाहते हैं। अगर हमसाया ये चाहे, अगर हमसाया कुछ और चाहे, तो उसकी भी काबिलियत पाकिस्तान रखता है। Since it's ceasefire, the sanity, Allah ka shukr hai that the sanity has prevailed, and we hope and pray that in days to come, it's going to be a peaceful region for our future generations, for us, and for everybody who's out there. We're heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after the bulletin break. All right, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with PTV World. Certainly, we've been building up on, the conversation between the DGMOs from Pakistan military and certainly the Indian military as well. But there's a bit more which we would want to discuss today, and that is that before I actually get into whether what points were discussed, maybe was about terrorism, maybe about, Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir and the syntax agreements. I think that I would want to kind of highlight the role that misinformation might have played during the tensions in between both the countries as well. How, unfortunately, within Indian media, false accusations were propagated. And there's an example of that, because imagine that the Pakistan security sources have strongly rejected the recent Indian media reports alleging drone violations by Pakistan across the line of control and international borders. And that's something which I do believe has contributed immensely. Now, imagine that this is something that which will actually kind of bring about people to think about whether, the tensions are going to rise again or not. And I think that every media house really needs to make sure that they kind of give in a responsible journalism, or, responsible journalism standard operating procedures must have been followed. But while we are at these crossroads, I think I would want to have this or further elaborate on this, in this part of the conversation, where I'm really lucky that I've been joined by Dr. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a breaking news coming in as well. And as of now, what I've been told by my team is that the news...
पूरी तौर से, भरपूर तौर से, खास तौर से आलम में जहां उनकी आवाज भी है और उनका वजन भी है और मौक़िफ़ भी है, फॉर्मर फॉरेन मिनिस्टर हैं, तो उन्होंने ये महाज संभाला। बिल्कुल, चाहे हम गवर्नमेंट में हो ना हो, जरदारी साहब प्रेसिडेंट हैं, उन्होंने भी सबको यही कहा, यही हिदायत की कि आप लोगों ने इस वक्त मुकम्मल सपोर्ट देनी है हुकूमत वक्त को और हमारी मुसल्लह अफवाज को। तो आपने देखा कि पीपल्स पार्टी के चेयरमैन ने ये महाज संभाला हुआ था। इसके साथ मैं ज़रूर मुबारकबाद पेश करूंगी प्राइम मिनिस्टर शहबाज शरीफ को, मियां मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ को, कि उन्होंने भी इस मुश्किल वक्त में पाकिस्तान को सुरखरू किया। और सबसे ज़्यादा इस वक्त मुस्तहिक इन हम सारों में जाहिर है हमारे गाजी हैं जो सरहदों पे हमारी दिफा कर रहे थे, जो नजर आती थी और नजर भी नहीं और बहुत सारी हमसे पोशान थी, लेकिन उन्होंने रात के अंधेरों में ऐसी प्रिपेयर्डनेस दिखाई, इतने चौकन्ना थे कि दुश्मन के मजमूम मकासद उन्होंने मिट्टी में मिला दिए। जहां जैसे बुखारी साहब ने कहा कि भारत समझ रहा था कि वो आपको रात को निकलेगा अंधेरी रात में और सुबह तक वो चाय तो नहीं पी रहे होंगे, लेकिन जो भी पाकिस्तान का नक्शा उन्होंने दिखाना शुरू किया कि वो तो बदल चुका होगा। कहीं उन्होंने लाहौर की बंदरगाह बना दी थी जिसको फतह करने वाले थे। ये मतलब ये एक फेक मीडिया की भी जंग है ना, इसलिए मैं कह रही हूँ ये महाज बहुत अहम है। तो ये सब था और फिर ये उठे होंगे, उन्होंने देखा होगा पहले दिन, और आफरीन है हमारे पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स के शाहीनों पे कि जिस तरह उन्होंने इतने मुश्किल एनवायरनमेंट में अपने नंबर्स के साथ कंप्लीट डोमिनेंस दिखाई बैटलफील्ड पे, जो उनका डोमेन है। हिंदुस्तान ने मल्टी डोमेन वॉरफेयर शुरू किया हुआ था। दे वर कंप्लीटली डोमिनेंट द पाकिस्तान एयरफोर्स। वी ऑल नो कितने जेट्स गिरे और उसकी तरदीद हो ना हो, आपने देख लिया वहाँ की फौज की, जो हिंदुस्तान की फौज की जो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस थी, उन्होंने कोई जवाब नहीं दिया जब उनके सहाफियों ने उनसे पूछा। यहाँ आपके फॉरेन मिनिस्टर होते हैं, फॉर्मर फॉरेन मिनिस्टर होते हैं, ISPR होती है, सब जवाब आपको देते हैं। ये नहीं कहते कि जी हम जवाब नहीं दे सकते। जब आप जवाब नहीं दे सकते उसका एक ही मतलब होता है जी कि आप हकायक से पर्दा डाल रहे हैं। और ये भी बात में जरूर, क्योंकि हम सब एक दूसरे के शुक्र मानते हैं, हमारा पाकिस्तान में इत्तेहाद था जी, मुकम्मल इत्तेहाद था, बगैर किसी के कुछ कहे पूरा मुल्क जैसे सीमलेसली एक हो गया। कोई ऑपोजिशन नहीं थी, जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज हैं सब अपना हाथ इसमें बटा रही थी। और हिंदुस्तान में तो आपने ऐसा नहीं देखा होगा, बल्कि अब तो सूरत हाल ऐसी है कि उनको लेने के देने पड़ गए हैं और अपनी नाअहलियां छुपाने के लिए, शिकस्त छुपाने के लिए वो अब तकारीर फरमा रहे हैं कि वो पाकिस्तान के साथ ये करेंगे वो करेंगे। वो बिल्कुल अलग बात है। हम बिल्कुल पीपल्स पार्टी से जंग नहीं चाहते, कोई भी जंग नहीं चाहते। हमने कभी किसी जंग का हथियार नहीं उठाया, न तबल बजाया। तबल हिंदुस्तान ने, भारत ने इस दफा बजाया पहले दिन, और 3 दिन तबातर से, जैसे सब ने कहा है, चेयरमैन बिलावल ने बार बार कहा है, चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ ने भी कहा है, शहबाज शरीफ प्राइम मिनिस्टर, खारजा वजीर सब ने कहा 3 दिन ये तवातर से कर रहे थे हमला, इनके जेट्स गिरा दिए गए थे, लेकिन इन्होंने फिर हमारे जब सिविलियन टारगेट्स को, मासूम शहरियों को, निहत्ते शहरियों को रात में तारीकी में जब इन्होंने किया है हमला, देखिए ये एक इंटरनेशनल टेररिज्म का जुर्म है। आप कोई भी किताब खोल के देख लें, बाय इंटरनेशनल लॉ, मैं आपको बाद में वो लॉज भी बता दूंगी, वो ये जुर्म कहलाया जाता है। आपने तो पाकिस्तान की मुसल्लह अफवाज और चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ सारे के सारे सुरखरू हुए, हम सब सुरखरू हुए, लेकिन इन्होंने फिर ये जारी रखा, फिर ये हमला जारी रखा, सिविलियन से आगे ये निकलते रहे। दूसरे दिन उन्होंने 77 ड्रोन्स गिराए हैं जो चलाए हैं और सारों को गिरा दिया गया। ये बड़ी अहम बात है, सारों को गिरा दिया गया। और एक मीडिया जंग, वाहियात मीडिया जंग जो मैं कहूंगी, बॉलीवुड फिल्म चलाई हुई थी जिसके हकीकत से कोई ताल्लुक नहीं था जी। पाकिस्तान का नक्शा बदल रहा था, क्या क्या हो रहा था। और मैं समझती हूँ उनका मीडिया शर्मसारी से हमकिनार जरूर हो रहा है, क्योंकि हमारे मीडिया ने, जैसे मुल्क ने, जैसी फौज ने, जैसी गवर्नमेंट ने, कोई ऐसी इमेच्योर बात नहीं की। आफरीन है आप सब पे भी कि पाकिस्तान का मीडिया मैच्योर रहा, थ्रू आउट जिम्मेदार रहा और कोई बदतमीजी, गाली गलौज जैसी बात नहीं हुई। ये एक वाज़े फर्क है, इसलिए क्रेडिबिलिटी अभी भी है। वहां तो सेंसरशिप का राज लग गया है जी, उन्होंने कितने वेबसाइट्स बंद किए हैं, कितने अकाउंट्स बंद किए हैं, लेकिन अब हिंदुस्तानी जो अवाम है वो देख रही है कि उनके साथ तो बहुत बड़ा धोखा हुआ है, हिंदुस्तान के साथ बहुत बड़ा धोखा हुआ है।
Pakistan People's Party leaders hold a news conference in Islamabad and reiterates and appreciates the role that the military and the political leadership and all the Pakistani people or the media of Pakistan have played, and they've all been sensible through thick and thin, and that's what makes Pakistan proud. But the most important aspect over here of her conversation was what we were trying to refer to earlier when we came back after the news break, and that was that how misinformation has been really misleading during these times from the neighboring parts as well, where unfortunately, I'm not sure whether what kind of journalism is being followed over there, but you know, Pakistani media houses, Pakistani TV channels have certainly played a very pivotal role by responsible or disseminating responsible journalism as per the standard operating procedures. To kind of speak further more about it, I'm really lucky that I've been joined by this amazing gentleman over here who happens to be a defense analyst. He is Dr. Tughrul Yamin. Hello sir, assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me on your show.
Very kind of you, sir, for your time, and certainly, you know, for you to be over here for your motherland, Pakistan. But to get the conversation started, sir, you've heard what we were trying to refer to, how misinformation has played a role. And sir, while we are at the crossroads of this, I would want to introduce my other guest as well, who happens to be Dr. SHABANA, the chairperson, Defense and Strategic Studies at the Quaid-e-Azam University. Hello, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to be in your program.
Likewise, likewise. I'm going to move on to Dr. Tughrul now, first of all. So, sir, how do you think that from across the border, you know, the misinformation is being spread? And I've shared instances where how Pakistan's security sources have strongly rejected the recent Indian media reports alleging drone violations about Pakistan across the line of control. Sir.
This is nothing new, Shahzad Saab. Information warfare, cyber warfare, this is been waged since times immemorial. And I recall in the 1965 war, General J.N. Chaudhary, who was then the Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army, he boasted that he will be having his chota peg in Lahore Gymkhana before the day was over. And the Indian newspapers splashed headlines proclaiming victory, that they have entered Lahore and they have captured this historic city. And this has never subsided, this kind of propaganda. And we also know what happened this time. They had been making absurd claims of victories which were non-existent, which were phantom victories. This did not happen. And today, in the age of satellites and in this digital era, you cannot fool people. Even in India, they have not been able to fool people. All the war hysteria that they created in their own country, it fell flat on their face. Modi's nonsensical address that he made to his nation did not get many buyers. Not many people believed in the gibberish that he was talking. So the main thing in any war is not to be misled by false news, by propaganda, which is nothing new, but to be steadfast and to have faith in your own country and in your own leadership. And we see that in this particular case, it was reinforced across the board. People were united, and in our country, which unfortunately has been so polarized because of political divide which has been created, was firmly behind the armed forces, and that was the reason that the armed forces could concentrate solely towards the enemy and perform well. The armed forces, we know, performed very professionally. Our pilots were good, our artillerymen were good who fired the missiles, the drone operators were good. So nowhere did we show any chink in our armor. So no matter how many false news that the Indians may create, or no matter how they try to dominate the social media, the fact of the matter is their story did not sell, and we were actually gain a lot out of this short episode which happened over the span of 3 to 4 days.
Exactly, sir, which is why, we're very lucky that we've been joined by the Chairperson Defense and Strategic Studies as well. So I think it'll be absolutely fantastic to pose this question to her. Now, Dr. Shabana Fayaz, the question stands over here is that we have seen, obviously, alhamdulillah, we are a peace-loving country, and there's been an immediate ceasefire. Pakistan is complying to it. We've seen India complying to it. We do know how via the hotline, the DGMOs have had a conversation. But before I move on towards that, because you are the Chairperson of Defense and Strategic Studies, please allow us to understand, when India propagates such false accusations against Pakistan, what are they trying to gain? Is it just the political gain? Is it the goodwill of the people of, within India? Because we have seen how from within India, we have seen or heard voices, how people were against what they did against Pakistan, or the retaliation from Pakistan was certainly something which was necessary. But what was the gain behind this entire misinformation and disinformation and false propaganda? And what do strategically, nation like India could get out of it?
Thanks for posing this question. A bit of correction. I've just completed my tenure as a chairperson. I'm a full professor at the department. Having said this, I have been teaching into the strategic planning and also narrative building and counterterrorism. I believe that the role of people and the public opinion and perception has always been important in warfare, whether it is economic, social, political, or military. What India wanted to gain, it is mostly, as we all know, the political mileage. That has always been, the Modi government, the BJP whole mantra has been selling it, that they want to make it as a pure Hindu state, and they portray Pakistan as an aggressive Muslim state. And that is a role of religion in the security has always marked, defined India-Pakistan relations. Number one. And number two is the role of misinformation. I think misinformation is something that plays a very important role across the world, whether it is our part, whether it is US, whether it is Middle East, and whether it's India. We at our department also talk of AI technologies and peace. According to that, we have to have a cyber literacy. And in this episode, what we have seen is that although we have been having the divisions, and it is just normal for any healthy country to have diverse opinion, but whether they were diverse in political setup, in economic setup, nationalism is something that as our national cohesive voice for Pakistan came together. And this is something. So misinformation has always been there. Even today, our youth is being fed by the stories by somehow, not by Indian, by other countries, and XYZ that continues to tell that this is happening, this has happened. But they are mostly capable of filtering down that information. And I think in case of India, as has been said, that our respected Ms. Shari Rahman, that they have been fooled to some extent as well. But this happens in case of war, because one of the casualty, of war is the truth. And, it happens across the board. But unfortunately, in case of India being bigger in economic size and otherwise, has been gripped by that frenzy to the maximum.
Exactly. And Madam, where you've actually drawn the line where how, India might be larger in size, but certainly, I've shared that Iqbal's शायरी too as well, जहाँ काफिर होता है वो शमशीर के ऊपर भरोसा करता है, that's fine. But how do you think, I think strategically to speak about Pakistan's point of view, it does not look like as if Pakistan is weaker at any front, so may it be the journalism aspect of it, may it be the war front of it, may it be the military might of it, may it be the armed forces, because Pakistanis happen to be a battle-hardened nation. Pakistan's military happens to be a battle-hardened military. How much do you think that it contemplates on the kind of performances we have seen from our Pakistan military and Pakistani nation to stand united in such times of crisis?
I think, as has been pointed out, but across the board, that our military, whether Air Force, Navy, and the other conventional one, has shown the maximum nerved, hardened nerve, and clear resolve. So this is something that is very, very well appreciated. And behind that is the people's support as well. If you remember, the tanks moving towards the border from Lahore, the way the people were, supporting that, and now they're coming back. But I think, having said this, with a strong military, with a, clear-minded, integrated national resolve in case of Pakistan, we also now look into the future. Where we are going, do we need to stick to this narrative? We have to, yes, it is the best one, but how to move forward and chart the course of peace mileage with India that has happened in case of ceasefire by the mediation of the USA. So how to do that? This is a very delicate task. This is something, a challenge for both sides. And I hope we are going to move that in that steadfastness for the better peace across the region.
Exactly. And my colleague over here, Ms. Eesha Rehan, actually wants to question towards Dr. Saab as well, so I'm going to allow her to do that. Ji, Eesha.
Adding on to what I said before, we want to dive into how our esteemed General Asim Munir actually said that how the Pakistan military worked in the mission Bunyan ul Marsus, how they performed during this mission was actually a defining moment in Pakistan military. So how did the Indian military actually underestimate Pakistan, and how did they actually think of Pakistan as a weaker nation, but they actually fell on their face?
Ji, Dr. Saab.
Question to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. India has been underestimating Pakistan for a very long time now. In 1998, May 1998, when the Indians carried out their nuclear blasts, they thought Pakistan would not respond. And the very next day, George Fernandez, who was then their defense minister, announced that it was now their turn to take over what they called Pakistan-controlled Kashmir. And their Prime Minister Vajpayee wrote to the US government saying that it's not Pakistan actually, it's China that we want to show that we are nuclear powered. But when Pakistan responded in kind, 2 weeks later, the Indians were quite shell-shocked, and they stopped making all these nonsensical claims that they were about to march into Azad Kashmir. So India has been underestimating Pakistan. It's not the first time. Then I recall in 2001, 2002, I was in the army then. The Indians had again created a drama on 13th of December 2001. They said that so-called Pakistan-sponsored terrorists had attacked their parliament, and as a result, they are going to go into Pakistan. They are going to march into Pakistan, not the disputed territory of Kashmir, into Pakistan, and they rushed 2 corps onto the border. And we were there before they came, and for 10 long months we were into an eyeball-to-eyeball situation. We were staring down, looking down at each other. They again underestimated Pakistan, because once the situation got hot and there was an exchange of nuclear threats, and the international investors decided to pull out from India, and that was around July 2002 that the Indians backed out. Pakistan did not flinch, Pakistan did not blink, Pakistan stood up to the threat. India wasn't expecting it, and they underestimated us, totally, clearly underestimated us. And again, this time they thought perhaps Pakistan is a weak country, Pakistan is bankrupt, Pakistan is living off IMF handouts, and their technology is weak, the Air Force is weak. We had Rafale aircraft, we have aircraft carriers, we have long-range ballistic missiles. So they did not understand that Pakistan's armed forces are well trained, Pakistan armed forces are well equipped, the morale is high, we are not a divided nation, and Pakistan is not a cakewalk. They cannot just walk into Pakistan. They have now again been told that they'll get a bloody nose if they try to do that. And our response, the very quick response, showed to them that Pakistan is militarily strong, is nationally strong, the spirit is there, and Pakistan is nowhere a country which is on the verge of bankruptcy. It will fight, and it will show that we are a united nation. Thank you very much.
Exactly, and thank you so much, sir, for saying that as well, because I think, towards the last segment of our transmission, I would want to kind of have this conversation also. Dr. Shabana, I'm going to move on to you, where obviously the first round of talks between the Director General of MOs via hotline has taken place. You happen to be an expert in the international affairs as well. So how do you see this, and what agendas were being discussed, and how do you think that these conversations need to carry on to bring peace within this region?
This has been a very, very important and critical line of communication between the two armed forces, that is the DGMO hotline. It has always existed before as well, but has been at times used regularly, but in the last 10 years or so, very rarely used. And if you look at published account that has come out in the newspaper, it's more often, the both sides agree and we're going to be respect the ceasefire. So this is the first round that has happened, but the most critical are that at least they are talking, and and this was something that was a part of the ceasefire, the dialogue, or a ceasefire rather, not a pact really, something, an understanding that was reached between the two sides that closed the the active hostilities going on against one another. So, and Pakistan was being defensive, and of course the India was being offensive. So the major part was that you are not going to attack, and that line has to be restored. Important point about this is this going to be what I will see is it's more of a the face saving thing, or it is more going to be a more substantive. What Pakistan to me looks like is very much interested, keen to have a durable, proactive dialogue with India. That's why we as a community are talking about that what should be in our basket. We need to have the Indus Water Treaty restored. We need to have the sort of a dialogue across the board that will include the 6-7 areas that have been the trade that has been basically the airfields, the airspace, the cultural links, the mobility of those, and specifically the return of the families that were pushed from India into Pakistan. If some across the Kashmir and even across the mainland, the two nationalities that have married. And so this is something Pakistan is looking for. But from the DGMO, this has to, more of a military thing, and this has to expand, filter down, because DGMO and the other side from our side has been given a mandate to soften, to make them understand that we need to have a all-encompassive dialogue, and that can also, I think, is going to take a bit of time. We need to have a restoration of trust, and and that is very important. Pakistan is willing to go more than half a mile. So what happens is, what is going to happen with India? Are they going to live more in a suspicion with the face of having the talks, or they want to deliver something substantive, whether at the strategic level, political level, or the social level?
Exactly, but Dr. Shabana, very quickly, I think it is of utmost importance that we discuss how unfortunately, geographically, we are placed in a location where anybody else can take advantage of it. We have seen how after the Pahalgam false flag operation, unfortunately, right after 5 minutes or 10 minutes of it, India started blaming Pakistan, where Pakistan actually asked for a neutral probe too. Okay, aaye baithte hain, baat karte hain. Now, to restore such sort of communication, where you say that it needs to be durable, where it needs to be reliable, it needs to be trustworthy, don't you think that there are still fears or chances of, God forbid, anybody else taking advantage of the situation between the two countries?
This is exactly where the roles of the middle, the powers or those who are proxies of the or the aggressors that may spoil the whole, thing. And unfortunately, if something of a major terror attack happens in case of Pakistan, whether coming from the across Afghanistan or otherwise, that can be very, very dangerous for us. And similarly, in case of the other side. So we need to have this understanding that this is like India has said, if there's going to be another terror attack, we are not going to think twice, once or twice about where it is coming from. This really shows that even though agreed to the ceasefire, they are not at the stage of willing to accept that Pakistan should be dealt as an equal party to be engaged in the peace with India. So I think this is where the role of mediators is very important. And here the President Trump has called, as initially stated, that, he's willing to mediate between the two sides. But there is a limit to mediation. If the both sides agree, then it happens. The case of Pakistan has always been there, but India has never reciprocated. And on the other hand, we also see in India is like the why and who crafted the ceasefire deal. They are saying, the government is saying, it's only us, it's not the mediators, and so they are backtracking of what has happened. So maybe it is because of satisfying their public, or the sort of the aggressive narrative that they themselves have generated within the Indian population and blinded them to the reality of having a peaceful neighbor, that is Pakistan.
Exactly. So I'm going to come back to Dr. Saab over here. So Dr. Saab, I think that's a very valid point that I've posed towards Dr. Shabana as well. Now imagine that if India still actually adheres to the same strategy which we saw, unfortunately, within the unfortunate incident of Pahalgam false flag operation, how do you think that the peace will prevail in days to come? Certainly, we do see how the members are having this conversation, how this peace needs to be durable, this peace needs to be trustworthy as well. But if India still kind of says, because this is something which Dr. Shabana has just mentioned, that in their press conference they mentioned how unfortunately, if such an unfortunate incident occurs again, we're not going to think twice. Where do you think Pakistan will stand then?
If there is a repeat, then Pakistan is going to respond in kind, and we have shown this time that we are quite capable of doing that. We have done that earlier also. There have been a number of false flag operations. The Balakot incident, you remember, when 44 men of the Indian Police Reserve Force were killed. They blamed it on Pakistan. They sent their aircraft into Pakistani airspace. That was first time after the 1971 war that they actually physically violated our airspace and used kinetic force. And this time again they have done it, and they know that we are quite capable of responding to it. I said that earlier in the program also, that Pakistan armed forces are well trained, well equipped, and highly motivated, and we are no cakewalk. We are not covering Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, and they are not Israelis. This idiot Modi doesn't have a 56-inch chest that he's been boasting about. But let me come back to the DGMO mechanism. Sure. The DGMO mechanism is one of the oldest confidence-building measures that Pakistan and India have between each other. The DGMOs are supposed to talk to each other regularly on a weekly basis to apprise each other of any untoward incident or anything unusual that is happening across the line of control. Usually they talk about what is happening in the disputed territory of Kashmir. So this time what happened was they actually violated our airspace and they fired inside Pakistan. So I think the nature of negotiations, the nature of talk between the two DGMOs have changed a great deal. And I think Pakistan will have to redefine the red lines, the thresholds, which will trigger any conventional or nuclear response. So DGMOs are talking, but the talk between DGMOs is not political, as Dr. Shabana was referring. It's only military talk, and it's also at the technical level. They talk about any violations, ceasefire violations in the line of control, and any unusual activity that might happen across the international border or the working boundary. No more, no less, they can talk about anything that they can resolve at their level. At our level, we have a major general. At their level, they've got a lieutenant general. That's their level. If we got to talk about the waters, which I think is very important, the holding in abeyance of the Indus Basin Treaty is crass inhumanity. They cannot do it. We need to talk about terrorism, the terrorism, kind of terrorism that is happening on our side, and we have to tell them, hey there, we know that you are behind the Jafar Express carnage that took place, and you are the ones who are killing people inside Pakistan. You are sending in assassination teams. You are the ones who sent that idiot Kulbhushan Yadav, who's now in our custody. So these are things that we have to tell them. Kashmir, terrorism, waters, and but this is beyond the mandate of the DGMOs. This has got to happen at a bigger level. And as Donald Trump has said, that we are going to do trade. We are going to do trade with Pakistan. We are going to do trade with India. And this is how you can diffuse tensions. If India knows that they have a market in Pakistan, they're not going to starve us of our waters. They need people to buy their stuff. And if we know that our movies or our film actors sell across the border, then we are not going to go to war. So these things have to be negotiated. There's got to be connectivity. There's got to be trade. The diplomatic levels which have been downgraded have to be enhanced. They've got to be proper high commissioners. They've got to be proper functional high commissions. They've got to be exchange of people. We got to build trust. Presently, India has got very false notions, as I mentioned earlier also. They don't want to talk with us. They think perhaps we are a failed nation, which we are not. And we have proved very effectively that we are not a failed nation. We are a strong nation. We are 250 million people, and we can stand up to you. So I think they've got to talk. Modi cannot continue hiding behind this.
And Dr. Saab, we have certainly been steadfast in our resolve as well, and the resolute shown by the Pakistan military, maybe the Pakistani nation, is amazing. I mean, I'm going to refer to an article which is over here right in front of me, and where it says that Pakistan armed forces have proven their superiority over India at the global stage. And Dr. Sahaba, I would want you to listen to it as well, where according to International Journal, the national interest shooting down the 5 Indian fighter jet is a tremendous achievement for Pakistan. The PF inflicted heavy losses on the Indian Air Force using J-10C fighter jets and PL-15 missiles. The national interest further said that the destruction of advanced Indian jets like Rafale is an irreparable blow to India. Now, these are the things that we do know for a fact, how Pakistan's military preparedness, may it be the Pakistan Air Force, Navy, Pakistan Army, Pakistani nation, political leadership, everybody being at that front. But now I think what we really need to kind of talk about over here is that how India has been inflicting terrorism within our own country, and we really need to kind of come to balance with that. We have seen how, from air to ground missiles were being shot, and that to our mosques were being martyred in Pakistan, and then India releases a press release saying that we were trying to, target the terrorist hideouts, where unfortunately, over here people who are martyred actually include a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old civilian, older women. How do you think that we really need to kind of bring this to the, to the attendance or the attention of the international audiences out there, or international allies, what India is trying to do? We do know for a fact that how the Hindutva mindset has prevailed, how the PJPI's government has actually been involved in it, how Modi does not want to sit down because of his political gains. So for a long-term peace, there needs to be something which needs to be a little different from what we have done previously. Ji, Dr. Saiba.
Ji, a very valid question you have given to me. Um, uh, the homework we have done and what we have tabled in the last years, आपको पता है हमने dossiers दिए हैं information पे disinfo में. We have tabled the resolutions in the UN. We have done the the diplomacy, sensitizing the nations across what has been happening in Pakistan and sponsored by India through the proxy warfare. We have been sensitizing our neighbors who have been, where the actors like the TTP and others are hiding, and they have been supported by other actors as well. And so many, many things have been happening. But the fact of the matter is that people listen. अगर आप reports देखें तो उसमें वो even US State Department की भी हैं, and human rights support. People do listen. But the fact is, has international community done anything? Has India responded proactively to these? Most of the time, India has not, been proactive. Rather, they say it's a propaganda from Pakistan's side. ये सब कुछ क्यों हो रहा है? The problem has been that since this is I think the Modi's third tenure, and what has happened is that this whole mindset has penetrated because he has continued to be in power because of exploitation of the mindset, and also because of in his favor has been the economic rise of India, despite the poverty graph coming up and everything going down. So this has really gripped that, what the world has been saying about, the Pakistan has been saying about terrorism or crossfire is on the deaf ears. So we all know, coming on our front, we all know what is happening in Balochistan, has been used, the proxies are used across the borders otherwise, and internally as well. This has been handled by outside. But the problem is that unfortunately, internally there have been certain elements who are not being able to diffuse or give up to the dialogue. So this is very, very unfortunate in case of Pakistan, because if there are lines of communication, if we have good relations with India, if the lines of the ammunition, if they from India or other aggressive powers, they or the money trail or the weapon trail is cut off, obviously then they will listen more, and they are forced to do this. This has not happened. What is happening is that the India has been putting all the blame on us. And as you have said, in the case of the attacking the mosque and targeting the mosque and other civilians, this has been the routine from their side, specifically across the LOC and the Azad Kashmir. I personally know the families and the and the others who have been hit, the generation-wise, and the salam to them is that they are still sitting in their homes on the borderland, waiting to be reunited with their kith and kin across the LOC. So this is something, the resolve is there. Why they feel like this?
Exactly,
Because
and that's
Pakistan
exactly
has
what we
supported
want
their
as well.
resolve.
Dr. Shabana, we certainly want the resolve, and that's why we stand in absolute
Yes.
resolute behind our armed force and political leadership as well. But thank you so much, Dr. Shabana. Thank you so much, Dr. Tughrul, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you, and thank you so much for sharing your insights. Now, for everybody who's out there, very quickly before I wrap up, and from tomorrow onwards, inshallah, you will get to witness our World This Morning transmission. But I think this is something that the entire world needs to know now, because India's misleading propaganda against Pakistan also stands exposed. And why? That the international broadcaster Deutsche Welle has exposed videos shared from Indian accounts as fake through fact-checking. According to DW, a few days ago, a video of an attack on Pakistani city of Sialkot was shared from an Indian social media account. So I think for people in India, I think it's about time that you realize that how unfortunately the BJP's government or the Modi's fascist regime actually wants a lot of political gain, putting their civilians into problem. Just yesterday, when the press conferences, or day before yesterday, when the press conference was taking place, and how Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb actually mentioned how they've put their own people, into a lot of trouble by, imagine that from Amritsar onwards, they were putting their own Indian people into trouble. Now, what I'm trying to say is that it's not the Indian people into trouble, it's all the other countries within this region, alongside Pakistan. But to very quickly wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has always been a peaceful country. Every individual who's come to Pakistan, has left from Pakistan, has always been in love with Pakistan. They would always want to come back to Pakistan because of the hospitality, the peace, the tranquility, and how people are actually so gelled in. So may it be from the south, from the Arabian Sea to the north of Pakistan, how we come together as a nation is something which everybody over here in Pakistan takes pride and the international community speaks about it. We will certainly make sure that these ceasefires stand tall. But unfortunately, if anybody in days to come, I'm not just speaking about India, if anyone one day thinks about that they will be turning an evil eye towards Pakistan, you have seen how Pakistan will respond. Pakistan Zindabad, Pak Fauj Paindabad. Allah Hafiz, Khush Rahiye.